They came and spent I think you came both days, Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. Okay, so it was good to have them there. Okay, we're gonna start over here with Russell and just go down and give your name, call sign, and if you want to say something, go for it.
Russell, KT7RAK, Gooding.
Ken, AF6QV, twins. Oh, another Ken.
Ken, KB7DFP, Twin Falls.
That keeps it here far west of you. Stan, K7NCF, just south of Hollister.
Bill, JB70J, Twin Falls.
Kathy, KC70W, Twin Falls.
Gene, KA3JKB, Twin Falls.
John, N7VKH,
Kimberly. Oh, okay, G7WLG, Kimberly.
Bill, W7AAC, something.
Brent, K2SAW, Twin Falls.
Jeremy, Kilo Alpha 7, Bravo India Foxtrot, Twin Falls.
Peggy, KI7BRD, Filer.
Darren, W1EGN, Tyler.
Kelly, KK7DEV, Kimberly.
Where's Kelly at?
Scott, Kilo India 7, Echo Mike, X-ray, Twin Falls.
Rich, KK7, RPW. Yeah, where am I? Buell. I got where you live, huh?
Nathan Heyer, N8HYR, Filer.
Matt, Twin Falls, KK7JTK.
RD, K7BIN, and Filer.
Mike, KK7, SQDQ.
That's wrong.
Oh, we'll drill it in here.
Jim, W7OUU, Twin Falls.
Bob, K6EDA, Curry.
Gordon, AA7TQ, and Twin Falls.
And I'm Terry, K37RAO, Twin Falls. We're gonna have to do two things today. But before we can turn it over to Bob to just give a review of field day, then we're gonna turn it over to Jim for the rest of the evening. The board has decided to do something, but we want your hands up for it, and we get a yay for everybody. We appreciate it. When we left the Boy Scout facility there, we took down an antenna that we own, the club owns. And I think it's being stored at Jeremy's. And so it's time to get it doing something. And I think Jim brought up the suggestion to John, who brought it up to me, which I thought was a great idea. So I talked to the rest of the board. We're all for it. And that is to donate that antenna to Bob, K6UDA. And one of the great reasons to do it is we're doing everything over at Bob's. And we do field day, QSO, we do, what other ones do we do? Winter field day. And so we're using his facility, he's taking antennas over there. And we just thought it would be a great idea. Thank you for thinking about that. Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'd like to get all in favor of that cobweb. Yeah. All in favor of giving it to Bob, raise your hand. Any opposed? Good, it's yours. So we just have to figure a time to get it. I won't deliver.
When are we?
I won't deliver.
When are we having the antenna raising party?
Yeah.
When I get back from vacation.
He's gonna be gone for about a month. So, well, maybe, so.
Washington.
Yeah, he's gonna go over to some of the communist countries called Washington, California. Yeah.
And then back.
Yeah. Our next meeting is gonna be on August 14th, and I had it planned, I think, I had the fellow, are you the guy that I talked to? Oh, thanks for being here, because my phone, I got a new phone, it wiped everything out. So you're gonna do soda, right? Okay, great. So next month, Scott.
7 EMX.
Good. I'm glad you're here. I need, before you leave, let me get all that stuff that my phone erased. Scott's gonna do a lesson and demonstration on summits on the air. So that'll be great. I appreciate that. So that'll be fun. So, okay, I think I have no more notes that I need to do. But just to remind you, we are looking for volunteers to do just like Scott's doing. If you have an area of expertise or some area that you're familiar with, share it with the rest of us. We have new folks, and even some of us old folks don't know everything. And that's how we learn, is if you guys mentor us that don't know that, so that we can learn about that. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob to give a review on field day.
Okay, field day was a big success this year. We weren't sure, but we had. Look over there. Well, we had like, 37, 38 people actually showed up over the course of the weekend. We ran a 4A, which is 4 transmitters. We kept them on the air, all 4 transmitters, for almost the full 24 hours. I think 3 of us went to sleep at the key at about 3 in the morning, 3 to 5. I remember I woke up at 5, went back out, and Bill, you were gone by then. What time did you leave?
Yeah, I was only there about, I don't know, 3 hours.
But you were there for a crucial 3 hours.
Well, I couldn't get used to the gear in that rig, so I didn't have any, I just sat there. But it's okay, I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
And Paul was out there, so.
And Paul was out there too, yeah.
Guy's an animal.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So anyway, 4 transmitters, almost a full 24 hours. I want to thank RD for supplying 2 of these Power Clean 200 amp hour batteries. We ran 2 of those and 1 100 amp hour lithium battery. No recharges, ran field day on those 3 batteries, ran everything off those 3 batteries. It was beautiful, and we want to do it again. Thank you. Let's see, total QSOs for the weekend, 560. We weren't trying to break any records. We weren't trying to be a big contest station. 198 CW. My arms aren't long enough. 50 digital contacts, 312 phone contacts, 56 on 80 meters, 128 on 40 meters, 203 on 20 meters, 127 on 15 meters, and 46 on 10 meters. And I'll tell you what, it was a fun time. We had a good time. We ended up having a pizza party. For those of you who didn't show up, thank you for the pizza. You guys paid for it. And the rest of us ate it. I've got, we did a go-to station, get on the air for new hams and non-hams. And we made, and I don't have the number breakout because I'm having issues with the logging software. But we made a lot of contacts on GOTA. And was it Peggy out in the back? She was a big star on GOTA. She just rocked it. And Andy too. They did good on GOTA. Did you work it? Beautiful. So we kept GOTA going all day Saturday. It was that was a lot of fun. I've made some notes for next year. We are, and these are just some real quick ideas. If you guys have ideas that you would like to float I'm thinking, maybe next year, meals, let's plan like a family potluck barbecue for Saturday night. You bring your families out and we have a good time. Maybe doing cowboy coffee Saturday and Sunday morning. Maybe breakfast on Sunday morning. How about like sausage and eggs, sponsored by the club? Come out early, we do that. I'd like to get input on the drinks and snacks that we had, what we'd like to do next year. I know a lot of people on Sunday morning want to go to church. We just so happen to have a pastor right here, and I was thinking, maybe we could do a short worship service right there, and everybody can keep the Lord happy. A formal, we were really thinking of doing a formal satellite station next year. We did a couple of satellite passes this year with an FT5 and a handheld Yagi. And a couple of guys that were there listening to this were like, holy crap. I can't believe how much traffic there is coming over a little repeater that's in the size of a shoebox, floating over the earth at 14,000 miles an hour. So anyway, I think I could talk Jim into running a full-blown satellite station. We might all learn something. Let's see. Friday night, I'm thinking maybe do it on-air testing, rag sheet session, social hour kind of a thing. Maybe VE testing at field day. Maybe those that want to upgrade, we could do some upgrades. I think we might be able to find enough VEs amongst us. More camping. We had a couple of campers out there. RD was camping. Tracy was camping. I probably could accommodate another 10 or more campsites out there. And so you feel free to bring your trailers and have a good time. I'd like to expand the alternative power concept, include computers and other stuff out there. And that's kind of all I go. Advertising ahead of time to STEM clubs, preparedness groups, and maybe doing some like prepper food tasting out there. We all have it. How many of us have tasted it? Knows what it tastes like. Yeah. John.
Maybe to include the wives next year along the food line.
Yeah.
We can do, instead of a best mobile setup, we could do a best dessert.
Ooh, I like that. I like that idea.
I'd rather look at dessert than anybody's rig.
That's how it's cooking.
Jerry.
I like that idea. I'm talking about the Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, maybe incorporate a fox hunt with field day. Let's see.
Before the contest starts, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Let's see, one other thing, we did have a mobile installation contest, and I forgot your prize.
Did you?
Ken and Lance, they tied. You guys tied. So I'm gonna cut a radio down the middle. It's a
Dual bander?
dual band radio. You'll get one band, you'll get the other. You guys gotta figure out how to make it work. But two beautiful mobile installations, guys. It really was a lot of fun. We'd like to expand on that. At least if you show up for an hour or two, just come and say hi. We don't expect everybody to sit down and operate. We don't expect everybody to stay for hours and hours. Come and support your club for an hour, for whatever, and say hi and see what's going on. It'll be the third Saturday in June. It's always the third Saturday in June. So whatever that falls on. And
You forgot that Jim brought us all breakfast sandwich.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
yes, and Jim brought McDonald's on Sunday. That was delicious. So we did kind of have sausage and eggs. Anybody else have anything, any questions, comments?
Solar powered barbecue.
Solar power barbecue. We can, we might be able to do that. Okay, that's all I've got, and, thanks.
Hey, let's give him a hand because he put the. Before I turn it over to Jim, I have one kind of sad thing. I think most of you know Eric. Remember Eric? And he died here a week ago or so. And Eric was a good head, you know, he had some physical, the guy used to be 6'2" or something like that. And because of his the diseases he had, he shrunk quite a bit, but he was a funny guy. And I appreciate it. I remember one day, he came to our Bible study that I have at the house. We have a lot of hymn guys there, talking about end time stuff, but he came and just, you know, every once in a while he'd just get a little rowdy. And afterwards I said, no, Eric, we just can't get rowdy. He said, I'm sorry. But one day, it was early in the morning. In fact, I was in the bathroom doing my morning exercise, and I get a phone call from him. It was like 8 o'clock. He says, can you come over to my house? I said, right now? And he says, yeah, I'm on the roof and my ladder fell.
Oh.
I said, your wife home? He said, no. And so I said, okay, I'll be there in a couple of minutes. So I ended up going over. I wish I would have taken a picture. I mean, I would have been a great fit. So I come around the back, and here he is on the back house. His door goes out and he has, you know, a little angled thing. And there he is sitting up there with his arms around his legs, just sitting there. And I said, boy, this is great. You'll never live it down. I'll tell everybody. I should have just taken pictures and sent it to everybody. But and he, you know what? He just laughed. He just thought that was. Tomorrow is a funeral for him, and it's in towards Buell. Just before you get into Buell, there's a little sign about that big that says cemetery. You go down there, and it's a military. It's going to be a military ceremony, 10 o'clock, and we need to show up. And, you know, I mean, we're friends, and this is part of this thing here is knowing one another, having friends. I'd sure hate to go and see, you know, 2 or 3 of the ham guys there. I know a lot of people work still, but if you can make it, please do. That would really show his wife and family that he had some friends. So it's 10 o'clock. It's out there. I hope you guys know where it's at. I went by it the other day just to find it.
It's National Cemetery.
It's a national cemetery out there.
Yeah.
So 10 o'clock, and they're having a reception at 12 o'clock at the funeral home over here off of, I think Addison. So you don't have to come to that, but if you can come to the funeral, that would be great. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kelly or Jim. I asked him, I said, Jim, there's something I would like. I said, can you talk about antennas? Because he's like, knows everything about antennas. I said, look, I'd like to know what's the best antenna, what works best for 40 meters, 20 meters, etc. He said, yeah, I'll do that. So Jim, it's all yours.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Let me just start with this. This talk will be on antennas that are easy to put up, radiate well, in some cases, some don't. And I've used most of the, in fact, I've used all of these antennas over the last 70 years. And at times during this presentation, I may say something that is contrary to what you experienced. So don't be offended by it, okay? I'm going to give you my honest opinion based on what I've experienced over the last 70 years in ham radio. One thing that you want to remember is that antenna manufacturers want you to buy their antennas for whatever reason. It's a marketing thing, as with most other products. And we're no different. Hams are no different. So I'm going to talk about the basic antennas that anyone in this room can make without spending $89, $99, $159. So with that, let me get on with it. Some of the terms I want to, that I'm going to use in this presentation are terms that you use in antenna work. One of them is gain, and that's represented in decibels. And you have two kinds of gain that you would hear, and antenna manufacturers like to tell you. DBD is gain over a simple dipole antenna. Most antennas, their gain is, lack of better words, put up against a dipole antenna, DBD. dB's over a dipole. And then we have another term that manufacturers like to use. That's dBi. That's an isotropic antenna. Anybody in here know what an isotropic antenna is?
Metal antenna.
Metal antenna, not only that, but it radiates equally as well in all directions.
Kind of fictional, right?
Yeah. So, yeah,
They're pretty funny looking.
it's sort of fictional game. Okay, I like that. Here's the deal though, okay? Here is the real deal. dB gain isotropic, that's an antenna that radiates the same in all directions, is 2.4 dB less, give or take, that of a dipole or any antenna. If they tell you this antenna is 15 dB, subtract, or dBi, subtract 2.4 dB from that. That'll give you the real answer. That will give you the gain over a dipole. That is the gain over the reference antenna, which is a dipole. Feed point impedance. What is a feed point impedance? We all know, well, we may not know, but we have to get the RF, the radio frequency energy, from the transceiver to the antenna. That can be done in a couple of ways. It can be done with coaxial cable. It can be done with 300 ohm. Anybody in here remember 300 ohm twin lead like they used on TV sets?
Yeah.
Okay. I've still got like a couple hundred feet of that in my garage. Okay, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever put up a dipole, but anyway, not that they don't work well. That's the standard. The dipole is the standard. So, Gordon, put a dipole up there for me if you would.
Okay.
While he's doing that, I'm going to talk about standing wave ratio, okay? And all you need to know is that one, that's RF being reflected, radio frequency energy being reflected back to your transceiver. Transceivers, most of the present day transceivers are designed and manufactured to be able to withstand a 2-to-1 standing wave ratio. The output of today's transceivers, in most part, is 50 ohms. That's where the coax, that's the feed line, comes in. 50 ohm coax from the transmitter to the antenna. You want that SWR, standing wave ratio, as low as you can get it. It can be 1-to-1, which means you got all the RF going up the hose, coax, and none of it coming back down the hose. That'll give you a 1-to-1 SWR. That's what you really want, okay? That's perfect. And believe me, there has only been a couple of rare instances over the last 70 years that I have ever achieved a 1-to-1 SWR. If you have an SWR of 1-to-1, super duper. If you have an SWR of 1.5-to-1, not a problem. The guy on the other end's not gonna hear it. He's not gonna hear the decrease in signal. Get to 2-to-1, probably he may hear a difference in the signal, but the problem isn't him hearing you. It's a problem what you might end up doing to your transceiver. Because they have solid state devices in them these days and they do not like high SWR antennas. Okay? Anybody got any questions about that? Okay, so here we have a dipole. As I said, it uses reference gain over other antennas. The feed point is balanced feed, about 70 ohms, give or take, okay? We normally feed it with coaxial cable and what they call a balun. A balun is a matching device, okay, and I can't get into that because it'd take a long time to explain what it's all about. But you should have a balun in there, okay, to go from, it's a balanced feed line. This is balanced, that's the generator there, that's your transceiver. This is the feed line, balanced feeder. The problem is that it's balanced and coax is not balanced. So you need to use like a 1-to-1 balun to go from balanced to unbalanced, so you get effective transfer of energy from your feed line to the antenna. Anybody, who's got a calculator? I need to have somebody that's got a calculator. Yeah. Good. Anybody in this room, and I'm not kidding, anybody in this room can build a dipole. What do you need to build a dipole? Some wire, some coax, a couple of insulators on the ends, and one in the center. That's all you need.
And somebody to hold the ends.
And somebody to hold that. Yeah, well, you gotta get that up off the ground, besides, yeah. Okay, the antenna itself, looking at it, if this was the antenna, it radiates broadside. Okay, so this is that dipole. And it radiates this way and radiates this way. So here's how you figure, I'm sure you're gonna wanna know, how long's the wire gotta be? There's two formulas that over the years you probably have memorized. I'm sure Bill has. 468 over the frequency in megahertz will give you how long the antenna is or needs to be in feet. So let's say that we're going to put up a 40 meter, 7 megahertz antenna. 468 over 7.0. That's
66.85.
66.85 feet. Let's say this is a 40 meter dipole. So it's going to be 33 feet on each side of it. Total of 66 feet. I go to Lowe's and I buy a 500-foot roll of number 14 THNN. Gosh, maybe, I don't know, at one time, there years ago, like 4. You could buy a roll, 500-foot roll for about $59. I put up a lot of antennas with 500 feet. Yeah, no.
Or you can come to my house and get wire for free.
Okay, that's right. Bill's got a ton of that stuff.
You have to help unroll it. though.
Yeah.
No problem. It's not a job.
Okay, so 468 over F in megahertz. 66 feet. You can get everything you need at Lowe's. The wire. Got to be an insulator in the middle. You got to separate those with an insulator. And you want insulators on the end.
Right.
What I use for insulators is, you may want to just take it from your wife. I didn't. Okay, I use a cutting board. And I cut it up and drill holes in it, make my own insulators. Easy to do.
Dollars.
So if you go to Lowe's,
Very expensive though.
what's that? Cutting boards?
Yeah.
Is
that divorce?
Oh. Yeah. That did take your wife. That cost something. Yeah. Okay, so everybody got an idea how what a dipole is? How it works, basically how it works? Get it as high off the ground as you can. Support both ends if you can. If you can't do that, take that same dipole, put a single support up in the middle of it, and hang it down, and it's called an inverted V. And it will radiate very well. In fact, they radiate excellent. And the only thing that is different, it changes the pattern, the antenna, the pattern that it sees. But it's not enough to, worry about.
Jim?
Yeah.
At the end of the 33 feet, does it have to keep going straight or can it turn for 3 feet?
You can dog leg it if you want.
Yeah. I have it in my attic and it only goes 30 and then I go down 3 feet on each side.
Yeah, 3 feet. How total length?
33 one way and 30.
Yeah, 3 feet in the other direction. It only starts getting bad when you get it above 90 degrees. Okay, yes, sir.
If you dog leg it,
Yeah,
one side of it radiate one way and after the dog leg.
No. It's still gonna radiate off the, you can dog it. Listen, guys, you got to understand something. These things do not have to be perfect. Okay, they don't have to be perfect. You can dog leg them, you can come down off it, go this way with it, as long as it's not radical. Okay, you can't take it and bring it back and fold it back on itself. You cannot do that. And the reason that is because now that antenna, if you bend it back 10 feet on each side, now that antenna is only 23 feet on each side. Okay. I have to do it another time. I can tell you how you can do that to tune them without cutting wire. Okay. Always cut them long. 3 feet, 5 feet. If you're like on 80 meters, I make damn sure I cut that thing 5 feet long. I can always fold it back and tune it because you're gonna have to tune these antennas. Bill can take a dipole that he's got at his house at 40 feet, okay? And the SWR is 1.3 to 1. He can bring it over to my house and I can put it up and I can guarantee you I am going to have to tune that antenna because it is not going to be 1.3 to 1 because of trees, ground conductivity, a myriad of things. All those affect the radiation, okay, or changes the input impedance by a slight amount. And that will raise or lower the SWR. Any other questions on dipoles? 145 to 1 is acceptable. Get it lower if you want. If you want to spend the time going out there and lengthening and shortening that thing, knock yourself out. Once I get them down to 1.2, 1.3 to 1, hell, I'm not going out in the sun anymore. I'm gonna use that marker. Okay. A folded dipole. Folded dipole. It's this same antenna, except it goes out here and comes back in to here. They're not used very much anymore. They take the feed impedance to a folded dipole is about 4 times that of just a straight dipole. There is one advantage to them though. PA9X did some experimenting and he has calculated that a folded dipole, also known as an extended dipole, has about 3 dB gain over a normal dipole. 3 dB, okay? Remember I talked about gain? Yeah. I know, Bill, you're looking at me and I read that and he did a lot of testing. So,
That means it's more directional. You
yes,
give than take away the same amount of energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Squashed into a more pointed.
more,
Yeah.
okay,
I never heard of that. But
yeah, it's an interesting concept. Believe me, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced of it. It's a claim.
Squeeze the balloon down. Those sides go out.
Oh, the other thing about a dipole feed where it feeds is 4 times, which is about 280 ohms. But you can take that 300 ohm ribbon that your grandpa left you sitting in the garage that he used to feed his TV antennas with and replace it once a year because the wind would break it. You can feed your antenna with that and give it a shot. The good part about an extended dipole is the amount of the band that it will cover. You're going to find out on 80 meters, 40 meters, 20 meters, 15, 10, just about all the bands. You're going to have to tune this antenna for the part of the band that you want to operate in. So if you're going to operate on 40 meters, and we've calculated the length of that at 33 feet. If you're going to go, that was at 7.0 megahertz, which is the bottom end of the 40 meter band. And you're going to go up and operate on 7299, which is the top end of the band. Okay. Chances are you're going to have to shorten it a little bit. So here's what I do. I'm a CW operator, so I cut all my dipoles operate the CW band. And then if I get a hair up my butt and I decide I'm going to go up and work on a single sideband, I just take a couple of clips, alligator clips that got a piece of wire in you use for jumpers and stuff like that. I just go out there and clip one of those on each end and work my sideband for the night, and then go back out in the morning and jump them off and go back down on CW. That's one way of doing it. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about verticals. Anybody in here have a vertical? Good. Verticals are good. They're normally a quarter wavelength long. And guess what? A quarter wavelength long. Guess what the formula for that is?
Dipole standing on its head.
Pardon?
Like dipole standing on its head, right?
Half
Half of the dipole. Half of it.
a dipole. So the formula for that is 234 over F in megahertz. 7 megahertz.
33 and 3.
33 feet. Is it? Those are two formulas that you should remember. Okay, I can tell you. Yeah. 80 meter dipole, about 126 feet. 40 meter dipole, about 66 feet. 20 meter dipole, about 28 feet. I can tell you what they are. They gotta put so many of the damn things up. Okay. Verticals, very easy to build. Number one, if you want to make one yourself, make it out of anything metal. The bigger around, the better. Okay, and the reason for that is the bigger around, the better, with the better bandwidth. Okay, so I have a DX Commander made by some guy over in England. Okay. In all my years as a ham radio operator, that is the best damn vertical that I have ever owned. And the reason for that is that it has a quarter wave radiator on every band. There is no loss there.
No transform.
No transform, direct feed, 50 ohms. Okay. No. In other words, I'm not using, except on 40 meters. On 40 meters, it's long enough to make it into, I think that would be, what would be 40 meters, make it, your wavelength on 15 mil? It's a multiple of 40 meters. Okay. 21 megahertz. 7 megahertz 3 times 21. Okay, so it's a multiple, and you use it on 40 meters, radiates pretty good. It's a great antenna, it's a vertical. Works good. Put as many radials underneath it if you can, okay? I don't think they're extremely spendy, but Bob, what are they were now, about 359, something like that?
It was about 400.
Yeah, $400. But I'm gonna tell you,
Do the radios have to be straight?
no. Just as long as, as straight as you can get them, I mean, you don't want them like double, same thing as with the antenna, you don't wanna have the ends.
What
I just wanna-
exactly do the radials do?
Pardon?
What do the radials do?
They just match the 50 ohm coax, the length they are. That's all they do. They give it somewhat of a ground plane on 10 meters. But they're more importantly, it's to minimize ground loss. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
What about elevated radio?
Okay. You can use elevated radials. The good thing, if you use elevated radials, you want to use them. They want to be a quarter wavelength long also.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can take this vertical. Oops. You can take the dipole, bend it in half, like an L. Okay, now it's this end down here. And what you have is a quarter wave vertical. Okay, and quarter wave length radials. To answer your question, number one, it's good for the pattern. Okay, it gives it a good ground, gives it a good ground to work, I guess. Okay. The other thing is if you use elevated radials and make them a quarter wavelength, you don't need as many of them. There's
Even one, right?
pardon?
Even one will work.
One will work, okay. But not as good as if you had like 4. My experience has been, and I've used elevated radios before. You don't need as many as if you had them on the ground. Okay, if you got 8 on the ground, you could get away with doing 4 to achieve the same result. The guy at the other end, ain't not gonna do a difference.
Jim?
Yeah.
What would be better, the dipole or the DX Commander when you're working HF?
Okay, here's the deal. The dipole is bidirectional. And you'll still work guys off the ends. None of this is cast in stone, guys. You'll still work guys off the end of the dipole. They just won't be as loud as the guys in the broadside do. Okay, number 2, and I'll answer your question. Number 2 is that takes some room. A vertical, number 1, doesn't take up any room. You don't need a support for it. Well, I mean, you gotta have something to keep it from falling down, okay? But they have a low angle of radiation. A low angle of radiation compared to a dipole. The low angle of radiation will work when your working station's far out. Because what happens is the signal comes off the antenna. If it's low to the horizon, it hits the F2 layer out further. Does that make sense? Okay, now you go to horizontal antenna and the radiation is at a higher, so it goes out like this and then down. Got to remember, for the sake of conversation, it's a 90-degree angle. Goes up, comes down. Okay, so if you get it out further, okay, changes the angle. So is a vertical better for working DX than a dipole?
Sometimes.
Some days. Okay, some days it's better. Depends on what, what the propagation is. It depends on what the F2 layer is doing, what the ionosphere is doing. We could do a whole night on propagation. Okay, so basic rule. Verticals work DX better. Dipoles are good for local stateside stuff. Doesn't mean you can't work guys in the States with one though, okay? like I said, none of this is cast in stone. The only difference between a dipole and a vertical is that a vertical is a little noisy to man-made noise. Not noisy any more than a dipole when there's thunder bumpers out there. It's just as bad, okay? The man-made noise, they are a little noisy. But for, as an example, my DX Commander, for what I want it to do, it does it extremely well. What I really like about that antenna, I'll be honest with you, it's like I got 7 bands that I can operate with an effective quarter wavelength antenna. That's what I like about that antenna. I do not like loading antenna. Bill has a 40-meter 2-element Yagi, don't you, on 40 meters?
Yeah.
And it's low, huh? It's, yeah, 2, okay. It's loaded, right? Or is it a full size?
Yeah, it's end loaded, the
Yeah.
one I use.
Okay.
Apps on.
I don't like using loading, okay? And making the transmitter think that it's looking at a quarter wave antenna when it's only looking at. I can make a wet noodle radiate RF energy. Give it the right kind of tuner and make a wet noodle radiate. Will it radiate effectively? No. Okay, I do not like trapped antennas. And I don't get anything from Callan. Is that name Callan?
Yeah.
I don't get any money from him. But I will say, you go on YouTube and YouTube him. And I'm going to just put in DX Commander. He's got a ton of videos on there and shows what it performs. And I thought, yeah, right. Okay, I've been doing this a long time. That's too good to be true. Okay, but then I started thinking about the theory behind it. And quarter wavelengths, yeah. Got full verticals on all bands. I put 32 radials, 10-foot radials on mine. Okay, I'm gonna put another 32 on it this summer. All I'm trying to do is minimize my ground loss. Okay. I tuned mine and my SWR on every band. I do not need to use a tuner on. It is less than 1.5 to 1 on every band, but you've got to take the time to tune it. That's what you have to do. You have to tune it.
Somebody take it up, take it down and cut it.
Yep, take it up, put it, I had that antenna up and down. I don't know, 45, 50 times anyway. Not that I'm a perfectionist. I just wanted to get that antenna lowest SWR as I possibly can. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to find out was if I changed one, would it affect another? And there was very interaction between all 7 verticals that I got on. 7? Yeah, I think 7 on that thing.
It was changing?
Pardon?
Did it change it?
Am I gonna change it?
Did it change it? Look.
It just made me feel better. The SWR, 40 meters, the SWR was 1.4 to 1. And man. Okay, so I go out, take it down. I think I shortened now. I think I shortened the 40 meter. I thought it was a little too long. I shortened it up a little bit, came back in the house. And it's about 1.3 and a half to 1. And I go out, cut another 1.5 inches off it, back in the house, raise it, back in the house. Now it's down to 1.2 to 1. That's pretty good. I could have left it there. I could have left it at 1.4 to 1. Okay, but I'm not a perfectionist. Okay. It's I like the SWR to be, be really good. If I had not been able to get it down below 1.5 to 1, I would have not been concerned about it. Because the transceivers today, as I mentioned before, are normally, they're spec'd at a 2 to 1 SWR.
It's for damage.
Possible damage, yes.
Smoke themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Bill and I both know about that. Okay, any questions on verticals? Did that answer your question? Any other questions? We're getting close on time. Yeah, go ahead.
And we need to talk about it after, but I know they use traps on there to get, say.
Yep.
Different wavelengths. Is that something you could even use on a horizontal dipole or is that?
Yeah, you can get trapped dipoles, sure. Yeah, all the traps do is isolate. Okay, so let's say you got two traps in there, okay, you got a 3-band antenna, you got two traps in there. One trap's will not see. Okay, the full length, the antenna will see all the RF. If you got a trap here. My diaphragm's not up there. If you have a trap here. All it does is the RF doesn't see the rest of the antenna. So the trap just make the antenna, it changes, electronically changes the length of the antenna is what a trap does. In simple words. Electrically changes it. So do trap antennas work? Of course they do. Of course they do. Do they work effectively? Yeah. I've had lots of trap antennas up, they work well. Okay. I had a butternut 5 BT something. Anyway, but all it did was make the transmitter think that it was looking at a 7 megahertz antenna, a 20 megahertz, or 14 megahertz antenna. But you know, it worked well. I mean, it worked out, but it had to have quarter wave radios underneath it for it to work properly. I tied it to my chain link fence and it worked pretty good. Not bad. I radiated, worked guys that hurt. That's all you want to do. You just want to get on the radio and talk to people. Okay. Long wires. This is going to probably run about 15 minutes long. Is that okay? Okay. Anybody need to take a break? Okay. Long wires. Lows. 500 feet of wire. Make it as long as you want it. Don't make it less than a quarter wavelength on the band that you're working on. Plan on using an antenna tuner with it. Hang it however you want. The higher the better. Make it whatever length you want. Because the impedance of an end-fed long wire is pretty high. Long wire up. Oh, there we go. Insulator, feed line. All wire. Easy antenna to build. Configure it however you want to. Hang it from the chimney down to the fence post. Put it up, make it an inverted V. All you wanted to do is radiate. Now, if you're a perfectionist, and you're going to make it for a single band, then you're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to tune it. Okay. But then again, you know, I've seen guys use a long wire antenna on every band. If the tuner will tune it, it's good to go.
Any length?
Yeah. When I was a kid, the people that lived next to us actually was a farmer. And my dad came home one night and says, "We're gonna put up the antenna, son." I said, "Okay, Dad." My dad was a ham also, W8BVJ. This is 1954, thereabouts. We went from my grandmother's house across his pasture to a huge tree. I mean, that mother was about 65, 70 feet in the air. But we were out there about 600 feet, okay? I climbed the tree. That's when I was young and dumb, okay? I mean, young and dumb. I climbed up through that tree and threw a piece of fishing line out of it to my dad, okay? And he hooked the antenna up and I dragged it up. We got a piece of rope, so it wouldn't go, the end of the antenna wasn't in the tree. But I'm gonna tell you what, that 600-foot long wire, I worked everything I could, I could work anything I could hear, one. And number two, I did it with 30 watts of RF power. A tube transmitter, that's 1954. Tube transmitter running 30 watts. In fact, it was the little nostalgia here. It was originally the first Heathkit transmitter that Heathkit ever built or ever marketed. an AT1, 6AG7 driving a 6L6 and a 5U4G rectifier in the power supply. And I still have it. Sits in the box upstairs. With a whole lot of other stuff.
What's the radiation?
Pardon?
What's the radiation pattern on that?
On this here, off the ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Off the end. That's been my experience. Not broadside. Okay, any length of work, longer the better.
What's the angle like on the long wire, takeoff angle? When you're staying off the end, you're talking.
Yeah, somewhat similar to a vertical, okay, I'd have to run it. Yeah, find what the length is and run it on ASNAC and then I could get a pattern.
In this case, you have a speed line from the ground up.
It radiates too.
That's radiating.
That's radiating too. Everything radiates. Dude, I can take this pie plate and put it and load it on 2 meters. All I need is a capacitor and an inductor. Not much of either one of those either, as far as value is concerned. You can make anything radiate. I've had friends that didn't you feed your tower on 160 or something?
Maybe.
Yeah, I had a 60-foot tower when I lived on base in California. And I shunt fed that. My wife had a 7 element tri-bander on top of that 60-foot tower. Okay, and I wanted to operate 160. So I shunt fed that thing, worked good on 160. When I could get to the radio, that was the problem. I would leave for work in the morning. She would be on the 1010 net, starting at about 7:30. I would come home at 5 and yell up the stairs to the radio room, "Hey honey, are we having dinner tonight?" "Oh yeah, babe, I'll be right down." She had been in that radio. She was an avid 10-meter operator. An avid, I mean, notebook filled with certificates from 1010. I mean, she was like a nutbag, but I loved her for it. And when I wanted to buy a radio, it was really handy. Let me tell you, because I'd say, "Hey, pardon?"
As long as it had 10 meters,
As long as it had 10 meters on it. She didn't work any other band. 10 meters was the only band she worked. That was the only band she worked. I remember I wanted to buy a TS 520 at that time. It was sort of a hybrid, have a little solid state, little tubes. And we lived in California at the time. And I came home at lunch one time and a ham friend of mine that was in service with me said, "Hey, have you seen that new TS 520? I said, "No." He says, "Hey, I got a QST, take a look at it." I took a look at it. I said, "Oh man, that's a fine looking transceiver, Bob." And so I went home at lunch. I said, "Hey, hon, I'm thinking about getting a new transceiver." And she says, "I'm at power." I said, "It's enough to drive your SB 220, which ran a kilowatt." And she said, "Where are you gonna get it?" I said, "Henry Radio. We'll go down this weekend." Henry Radio at the time was in Los Angeles. And we drove down to Henry Radio that Saturday morning. And I got my TS 520. Well, she got her TS 520 and I got to operate it a couple of times. Okay, let's move on. Beam antennas. Any more questions about long wires? They're simple to build. Anybody can put one up. Stay away from power lines. Anytime that you're working with antennas, anytime. Before you raise it, even a vertical, before you raise it, calculate it, make sure that if it does fall, it's not going to come down across the power lines. Okay. The last antenna I'll talk about, or let's talk about, you got it? Oh, yeah. Okay, here's a modest HF station for you. This is my friend Bob, or Tim, at Zero TV. And you see these elements here? I don't know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's a 9-element Yagi. Okay, and right here, you see those right there? Those are traps. Okay. It's killer antenna. He's a big time DXer, you know what a DXer is. He's with the DX. He's a big time DXer. On top of here, I think that's like a 1, 2, 3. I think that's a 7 GHP. I think that's a M squared 6-meter Yagi. Has it up. Yeah, 13 dB a gain. That's what I use on 6 meters. I'm a VHFer. I work HF, don't get me wrong. But my main goal is 6 meters and 2 meters. Okay, down here, he's got a couple crossed in. I don't know what those are. Okay, show the other slide of his station. Yeah, that's Bob's copy.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's,
Not the quad?
yeah, that's good. We'll use this one. Okay, this is these are quad antennas. You can. Uh-oh,
Sorry.
that's okay.
There we go.
You can put them in any configuration you want, as long as they're like that, okay? They're called quad antennas. Okay? Good antenna. They're not hard to build, but they're hard to build so they stay up. Okay? Because the spreaders, where the wires go, you know, you gotta have like spreaders to put the wire around if you're using wire. You can look up there and see what gain is. That's overrideable. So, are they a good antenna? Yeah, they were good. They work really well, actually. The normal beam antenna that we just looked at, well, my friend Tim has, that's typically known as a beam. This is a beam. Yankees, like I showed you the picture before, that's a beam. You can have a V beam made out of wire. Basically, what it means is that it's a directional antenna. When people say, hey, I'm using a beam, okay, you figure, okay, then it's a directional antenna. The good thing about a beam is, number one, it's directional. And I was just talking to Bob about this. He, in the morning, JAs come in, JAs being Japan, okay? And sometimes they get covered up by stations from the back of the antenna. With a beam, they have a thing that's called front to back ratio. So I turn my beam towards Japan. This guy's like running, you know, his signal strength is really, really up there. And these guys that are on the same frequency that we are, off the back of the antenna, they're attenuated because of the front to back ratio. So they can be very, very directive. Show that other picture. I'll show you some cool beams.
Back to the other beam.
Yeah, go back to N0 TVs antennas. Now, the other one. That's a Yagi. That's a Yagi. Yeah. This one.
This one?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, there you go. Okay, this guy's serious. He's got 4 Yagis. Okay. That's his station on 6 meters. Those Yagis are about 30, 35 feet long. He's got 4 of them. And he uses them for EME, Earth, Moon, Earth. He uses them for moon bounce. Works a ton of stations, running a boatload of power too. But he's very, very effective on the moon. I mean, he can hear his own echoes. It's pretty cool, pretty cool.
So has he talked to anybody on the moon yet?
Oh,
Has he talked to anybody on the moon?
no, not on the moon. Off the moon, but not on the moon. Okay, where are we going here? Beam antennas are pretty effective. If you can put one up, I would highly recommend that you do that. Because they will give you gain. The amount of gain is determined by how many elements are on. That's a simple calculation. So if you add elements to a beam, your signal gets stronger at the other end. Simple. One antenna that I didn't talk about, and I wish Kent was here, but I got an email from him. He was working into Europe on 6 meters. I'm here doing this. But it's okay. He was on the working guys out already. So if you can, put up a beam. Okay, multi-band beams, single band or whatever. That'll perform better for you. And again, just like as any antenna, and I think Bill will attest to this, the higher you can get it, the better signal you'll have at the other end.
What about that one that Bob has, that one that's got a plate down in front of him?
The cobweb. Okay, the cobweb is not, the cobweb is a one wavelength loop. And how many bands you got on yours? 4?
6 pages.
Six bands. Does it radiate? Yeah, it does radiate. Does it radiate well? I don't think so. And neither does PA9X. He has found out that you got about 1 dB a gain there. And you're not gonna hear that on the other end either. Okay, and it's omnidirectional. But the good thing about it, you can get 6 bands on it and be on the air on 6 bands, and it will radiate and you will be able to talk to people. Are there better antennas? Yep. A Yagi. Would I rather have a 3-band cobweb, or would I rather have a 3-band, or as we call them, tri-band Yagi? I'd take the Yagi. Why? Because it's got 3 elements, probably give you about 4 dB over a dipole, which was our reference antenna. And it has direction, so you can shut station, you can minimize the interference you get from behind it.
You're gonna like it, Bob.
Yeah, you're gonna let's get Yagi. Yeah, I had, that's an I know Yagi. Mine was a 7, six element. Yeah, so high gain 6 element. Yeah, you can high band 10, 15, 20. Okay. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you for being a good listening audience. And as opposed to what I was subjected to for 22 years in the Air Force in the classroom. But if you have any questions about it, my email address is w7ou.jpk@gmail. Easy to remember. w7ou.jpk@gmail. If you have a question about antennas, I don't care what kind of an antenna is it, give me a call. All right, thank you very much, folks.